The general consensus seems to be that why the PlayStation 4 did so well this generation was because of its incredible lineup of exclusive games, and that's been no different throughout 2018. We've seen a lot of great exclusives be released on the PlayStation 4, and in this video, I want to take you through every single must-own PS4 exclusive from 2018 thus far. Now, this is up to July 8th, 2018, so no, Spider-Man hasn't been released yet, Tetris Effect hasn't been released yet, and those are two of the upcoming PlayStation 4 exclusives for the rest of the year that I'm sure will be fantastic. So if you're watching this video down the line and you notice those games aren't on this list, that is why. We've got 5 games to go over, so let's get right into this. First up, Detroit Become Human by Quantic Dream. Quantic Dreams' games are very hit or miss. Some people absolutely love their offerings, other people not so much. Personally speaking, I really enjoyed Indigo Prophecy, although that game hasn't aged all too well. Heavy Rain is still pretty good, and by the way, that's a PlayStation Plus game. And I think the majority of people would agree in saying that we weren't all too satisfied with Beyond Two Souls, and that was a Plus game a few months ago. However, there's something about Quantic Dreams titles that always keep us coming back because they are so captivating, they are a little bit more ambitious, and that was no different with Detroit Become Human. And while I won't say it was a perfect game, it was one of the most captivating Quantic Dreams experiences, and the original futuristic setting revolving around androids sounds a little crazy at first, but it also becomes a very believable story, and almost to the point where you can empathize and relate to the characters, as crazy as that sounds. Detroit Become Human obviously is like every other Quantic Dream title in that it's not heavy on the gameplay. This is a game that you're going into it for the story and the atmosphere and the immersion, but it nails those elements really well. As a Quantic Dream title, there are going to be those of you that are put off by the title right away, and I really can't win you guys over. But for those of you that were a fan of Heavy Rain, a fan of more story-driven games, Detroit Become Human, in my opinion, is an absolute must-play.
I know someone who can help you.
Pull the trigger. How do I know you are not a deviant?
They are not machines!
I could take you there.
Go! See that?
Next up, we have a game that might be a surprise addition for some of you, but I really want to give a mention to Dragon's Crown Pro. Now, Dragon's Crown Pro is the enhanced edition of a PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita game, and the only issue with this game's release was the price tag. $49.99 for Dragon's Crown Pro was a little bit much, although it went on sale rather quickly, and at this point, you can pick up the game for like $34.99, and that's the price the game probably should have been released at. But nonetheless, Dragon's Crown is a great side-scrolling RPG done by the guys over at Vanillaware, who have also done Muramasa the Demon's Blade. That was a game released back on the Nintendo Wii, as well as the PlayStation Vita, and Dragon's Crown follows in the footsteps of those games, having a great art style, pretty intuitive gameplay, and a wealth of content. And what was great about Dragon's Crown Pro as well, this isn't a feature that everyone would take advantage of, but it was cross-play with the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita versions of the game. There's a cooperative element to the game, and to just have cross-play with the PS3 and Vita version of the game, that has to count for something. Moving on, the next game is a series that we kind of beat to death on this channel about how good it is, but I'm giving it a mention here once again, and that is Yakuza 6: The Song of Life. It really warms my heart to see Yakuza get the credit that it deserves over here in the West. Maybe these games haven't been selling blockbuster numbers. I'm not aware about how Sega feels about the commercial reception of these games over here in the West, but obviously they feel strongly enough to the point where they can justify continuing to bring these games over. Last year we got Yakuza 0 and Yakuza Kiwami. This year we're coming up on the release of Yakuza Kiwami 2, and of course earlier this year we got Yakuza 6: The Song of Life. This game concluded the main Yakuza story and the story of Kazuma Kiryu, and you could make an argument that this was the best Yakuza game thus far. Obviously being built ground up for the PlayStation 4 doesn't hurt, and the gameplay is still as diverse and zany as ever. You've got your mature storytelling, but then you've also got wild side activities, great combat, and a very diverse, and the best word I could use to describe Yakuza 6 is well-rounded. This is a well-rounded game that has a lot of gameplay elements and fundamentals that really work to enhance the game. Now, of course, if you're a novice to the Yakuza franchise, maybe don't get started with Yakuza 6. I might point you towards Yakuza 0 instead, but if you played Yakuza 0, you really enjoyed it. If you played Yakuza Kiwami, you really enjoyed it. Of course, you gotta give Yakuza 6 a look.
あいつらを守れるなら俺は喜んで死んでやるさ。
Next up, we have a remake to a game that many consider to be one of the best games of all time, and that is Shadow of Colossus. Now, this Shadow of the Colossus remake was done by Bluepoint Games, who have actually remastered and remade a lot of games. But don't get it wrong, as I said, this is a full-on remake. Right away, when you look at Shadow of the Colossus, you can tell that this isn't just a lazy remaster. We already got Shadow of the Colossus and Eco remastered on the PlayStation 3. There's a reason why this game was released as a standalone title for $40, and that's because it's a full-on remake of Shadow of the Colossus. And really, the only drawback to Shadow of the Colossus on the PlayStation 2 was from a technical side of things, and on the PlayStation 4, of course, those shackles come off, and this game is still a technical marvel. Yes, being as old of a game as it is, but being released now in 2018 with better visuals, it is still incredible to look at, especially if you have a PlayStation 4 Pro. You can play the game upscaled at 4K at 30 frames per second, or if you do want to play the game at 60 FPS, you can do so as well, and it'll run at 1080p. If you never played Shadow of the Colossus, then you're gonna have an absolutely incredible time with the remake, and if you did play it back on the PS2, well, you can jump back into it on the PlayStation 4, and it's still as incredible of an experience. It's just better on the PS4. It's not like any of the content was drastically altered. You do have a brand new control scheme you could use, but there's no reason why you would have to alter the fundamentals of Shadow of the Colossus. It's such a good game already that just remaking the game with better visuals, better frame rate, that's absolutely worth a buy as is, and it's already being discounted to around $29.99, so another game that you absolutely have to own. Now, number one comes as a shock to no one, but I feel like we haven't done our part about gushing about how great of a game God of War is. Yes, Sony Santa Monica's God of War is being heralded as one of the best PlayStation games of all time, one of the best exclusives that has ever been released on a PlayStation platform, and it's of a franchise that's been around for a long time. God of War has been here since 2005, and we've seen numerous entries, and honestly, after the release of God of War Ascension, I personally found the franchise to be getting a little stale, but here we have Sony Santa Monica Studio coming back with God of War, now in Norse mythology. Now Kratos a little bit older, he's got a kid to look after, and it's the absolute perfect revamp this series needed. They refined the series, they made it better, and from a production standpoint, it doesn't get much better than God of War. In terms of the budget in this game, some of the fights, some of the set pieces, it is absolutely jaw-dropping, to the point where God of War, because of its technical achievements, makes a lot of games that were already released on the PlayStation 4 look like last generation titles. That's how big of a leap God of War is from other games. And enough about the technical side of things. Of course, gameplay was massively revamped. It's a little bit slower paced, and then the story is great too, and they've only scratched the surface of what they can do in Norse mythology. Of course, there's gonna be another God of War game, but they've set the table so well with this title. So Santa Monica Studio really has their work cut out for them if they want to top this with their next title. But of course, this is a true defining console experience. You only get a few of those a generation, of Bloodborne and Uncharted 4 and a God of War, and outside of that, I wouldn't put many exclusives at that tier. That is a tier of absolute excellence.
So I'm a man now. Like you?
No. We are not men. We are more than that. The responsibility is far greater.
You kill something that big?
So those are the 5 absolute must-own PlayStation 4 exclusives from 2018 thus far. All of those games are great. Of course, I would put games like God of War and Shadow of the Colossus a little bit higher than the rest of the pack. No disrespect to Yakuza 6, Dragon's Crown, or Detroit Become Human. They're all great games, and if you look at the variety in the games, you've got a lot of it. You've got a story-driven adventure. You've got a Japanese side-scrolling RPG. You've got a more mature Japanese experience in Yakuza 6. You've got a remake of one of the best games of all time, and then you've got one of the most iconic franchises in PlayStation history being revamped and being better than ever. If that's not diversity, I don't know what is. That is going to conclude this video. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Make sure to let us know which of these games were your favorite from this year thus far. And again, we've still got a couple of great PS4 exclusives to come in the rest of 2018. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.